I still remember the exact moment my family decided I was worthless. It wasn't a gradual realization or a slow descent into disappointment. No, it happened at precisely 7:43 p.m. on a Tuesday evening, all because of $800. I was sitting at my small desk in my childhood bedroom, counting the tips I'd earned from my waitressing shift. College textbooks were scattered around me, their price tags still visible, reminders of why my bank account was nearly empty 3 weeks into the semester. Madison. My father's voice boomed up the stairs. Get down here. Now. There was something in his tone that made my stomach clench. I'd heard him angry before, but this was different. This was the voice of a man whose pride was about to destroy everything. I found them in the living room, that perfect space my mother had decorated to look like a magazine spread. Crystal vases caught the evening light, casting prismatic shadows on the imported Italian marble floors. Everything in its place, everything chosen to project success and wealth. Everything a lie. My father stood by the fireplace, a piece of paper crumpled in his fist. My mother perched on the edge of the sofa, her designer outfit at odds with the worry lines creasing her forehead. The bank called, my father said without preamble. They're threatening to repossess my car. Over $800. He spat the number like it was poison. $800 that I know you have. I felt the blood drain from my face. What? Don't play dumb. He thrust the paper at me, a bank notice threatening repossession. I saw you counting money just now. You've been working doubles at that diner for weeks. Hand it over. The truth stuck in my throat. Yes, I had money upstairs, exactly $783.42. Every dollar earned from endless hours of carrying plates and smiling through exhaustion. Money that was already spoken for. Dad, I can't. That's for my textbooks. I haven't even bought all of them yet. Textbooks. He barked out a laugh. You think your community college books are more important than my Mercedes? Than our family's reputation? My mother finally spoke, her voice soft but sharp. Madison, be reasonable. Your father needs this. It's just money, you can earn more. Just money. As if the hours of work, the aching feet, the missed sleep meant nothing. As if my education was worth less than their image. I'm sorry, I said, meaning it. But I need these books. I can't pass my classes without them. My father's face turned an ugly shade of red. Can't? Or won't? He stepped closer, using his height to intimidate. After everything we've given you, this is how you repay us? By being selfish. Given me? I wanted to laugh. They hadn't given me anything. Every dollar I had I'd earned myself. While my friends' parents paid their college tuition, I was taking night classes because it was cheaper. While other students lived in dorms, I stayed home, not out of choice but because I couldn't afford to leave. I'm not being selfish, I said quietly. I'm trying to build a future. Future. My mother's laugh was brittle. At community college? Taking business classes like you're going to be some big CEO someday. That hurt more than it should have. They'd never supported my dream of starting my own company, never believed I could be more than what they saw, a waitress taking cheap classes at night. The money is for my books, I repeated firmly. I'm sorry about the car, but get out. My father's roar made the crystal vases tremble. If you won't help this family, you're not part of it. Pack your things and get out of my house. I stared at him, waiting for the words to make sense. You're kicking me out? Over $800. Don't act surprised, my mother said, smoothing her silk blouse. You've always been difficult, ungrateful. Maybe sometime in the real world we'll teach you about family loyalty. Family loyalty. As if loyalty only worked one way. As if I hadn't spent years trying to earn their approval, their support, their love. Fine. The word came out calmer than I felt. I'll pack. You have 1 hour, my father snapped. And don't even think about taking anything we paid for. I wanted to point out that left very little, my clothes, my laptop bought with tip money, my secondhand textbooks. Everything else in my room had been carefully chosen by my mother to match her perfect house's aesthetic. Upstairs, I methodically packed my life into 2 duffel bags. Clothes from Target and thrift stores. My waitressing uniforms. The business books I'd already bought, their margins filled with dreams and plans my parents thought were worthless. My money went into my pocket. $783.42 that would now have to stretch further than I'd planned. As I zipped the last bag, my phone buzzed. A text from my best friend Sophie. Heard yelling. You okay? I typed back quickly. Need a place to crash. Just for a few days. Her response was immediate. Guest room's yours. No time limit. Sophie's parents had always treated me like a second daughter. They weren't rich, her dad was a high school teacher, her mom ran a small bookstore, but they were kind. They understood the value of education, of dreams, of trying to build something more. I took one last look at my room. The pale blue walls my mother had insisted on. The matching curtains and bedspread. The desk where I'd studied late into the night, determined to prove I could be more than they thought I was. Downstairs, my parents waited by the door like security guards at a museum, making sure I didn't steal their precious possessions. When you're ready to apologize and help your family, my father said stiffly, you can come back. I shouldered my bags, looking him straight in the eye. When I come back, it won't be asking for forgiveness. My mother's lips thinned. And where exactly do you think you're going? What can you possibly do with your community college education? I stepped out into the warm evening air, turning back one last time. Watch me. They didn't try to stop me as I walked away from their perfect house with its marble floors and crystal vases. They didn't call out or come after me. They just closed the door, probably already thinking about how to explain my absence to their country club friends. Sophie was waiting on her front porch when I arrived, her parents beside her. They didn't ask questions, didn't judge. They just helped me carry my bags to their guest room, a small space with mismatched furniture and more warmth than my entire childhood home. Stay as long as you need, Sophie's mom said, hugging me tight. We believe in you. That night, I sat cross-legged on the guest room bed, my business textbooks spread around me. The $783.42 was carefully divided. $500 for the remaining textbooks I needed, $200 for emergency savings, $83.42 for absolute necessities. I opened my laptop, the one I'd bought with 3 months of tips, and pulled up the business plan I'd been working on. A real estate investment strategy I'd developed in my finance class, one my professor had called innovative and ambitious. My parents thought community college was worthless. They thought I couldn't be successful. Fine. I'd show them exactly what their difficult, ungrateful daughter could do. I worked late into the night refining my plan. The next morning I picked up extra shifts at the diner, started looking for a second job. Every dollar would count now. Every hour would be an investment in my future. My parents' house, with its $1 million mortgage and desperate need to impress, had never felt like home. But someday I promised myself I would have a real home. One bought with my own money, built on my own success. And maybe, just maybe, it would be the very house they thought was too good for me. Little did they know their perfect world was already starting to crumble. The $800 car payment was just the beginning. Their carefully constructed facade of wealth was built on debt and pride, and both were about to come crashing down. But I didn't know that yet. All I knew was that I had $783.42, a solid business plan, and something my parents had never given me: people who believed in me. Sometimes being kicked out isn't the end of the story. Sometimes it's exactly where the real story begins. 10 years can change everything. A decade after being thrown out over $800, I stood in front of my parents' house again, but this time as something they never expected: their mortgage holder. The years between had been a masterclass in determination. Living in Sophie's guest room, I worked 3 jobs. Waitressing during the day, bookkeeping for local businesses in the evenings, and weekends at a real estate office. Every spare moment went to my studies. My real estate professor, Dr. Martinez, became my mentor. He saw something in my investment strategy that others missed. You understand what most people don't, he told me one day after class. Real estate isn't just about buying properties. It's about seeing value where others see risk. He introduced me to Jennifer Chin, a former student who'd built a successful investment firm. She reviewed my business plan over coffee one morning. "This is ambitious," she said, reading through my analysis. "But your numbers are solid. Would you be interested in an internship?" That internship changed everything. Jennifer taught me the intricacies of real estate investment, the art of recognizing properties in trouble, and most importantly, how to turn those troubles into opportunities. By graduation, I had saved $50,000 from my various jobs. Jennifer matched it, becoming my first investor. "Consider it seed money," she said. Show me what you can do. I started small, buying distressed properties, renovating them efficiently, and either selling for profit or maintaining them as rentals. Each success led to larger opportunities. Other investors noticed. My portfolio grew. 5 years after being kicked out, I founded Sterling Property Solutions. The name was my private joke, taking my father's precious family name and actually making something of it. Within 3 years, we were handling millions in real estate assets. I kept tabs on my parents through Sophie, who still lived in the old neighborhood. Their facade of wealth was cracking. The Mercedes got replaced with a more modest car. Country club memberships quietly lapsed. The perfect house began showing signs of neglect. Then came the day I'd been waiting for. Sophie called me at my office, now a sleek space overlooking downtown. "Madison, you need to see this." He sent me a link to a bank notice. My parents' house was going into foreclosure. They were underwater on the mortgage by nearly $1 million. I leaned back in my chair, looking at the framed dollar bill on my wall, my first profit from my first property flip. Next to it hung my community college diploma and a photo of Sophie's family at my graduation. "Find out who holds their mortgage," I told my assistant. The pieces fell into place perfectly. Their mortgage had been sold multiple times, finally landing with a bank eager to get the property off their books. Through a series of shell companies, I bought the debt for 60 cents on the dollar. Now, standing in front of the house 10 years later, I straightened my Armani suit and checked my watch. The foreclosure notice had been delivered yesterday. My parents had demanded a meeting with the bank's representative to plead their case. They had no idea that representative was me. The door opened before I could knock. My mother stood there, aged but still maintaining appearances. Her eyes widened slightly as she recognized me, then narrowed with calculated coldness. "Madison? What are you doing here?" "Hello, Mother. I believe you have a meeting scheduled about your mortgage." The color drained from her face. Behind her, I heard my father's voice. "Who is it, Diana?" "You might want to invite me in," I said quietly. "We have a lot to discuss." The house hadn't changed much. Same marble floors, though now they showed signs of wear. Same crystal vases, though a few were conspicuously missing, probably sold to maintain appearances. My father stood by his beloved fireplace just as he had the night he threw me out. But now his expensive suit looked worn at the edges, his posture less commanding. "What is this?" he demanded. "Where's the bank representative?" I pulled out my phone, bringing up the property documents. "You're looking at her. Or more accurately, you're looking at the owner of your mortgage." They stared at me, uncomprehending. I sat down on their perfect sofa, opened my briefcase and laid out the papers. "Sterling Property Solutions now holds your mortgage. My company." I let that sink in. "You're underwater by $975,000, 3 months behind on payments, and the property needs significant repairs." "Your company?" My mother's voice shook. "That's impossible. You're a community college graduate?" I finished for her. "A waitress? The difficult, ungrateful daughter you threw out over $800. My father's face had turned that familiar shade of red. "This is ridiculous. We don't believe you." I slid the documentation across their imported coffee table. "Believe the paperwork then. Your house is now effectively mine. And unlike your previous lender, I'm not interested in restructuring the loan." "You can't do this," my father exploded. "We're your parents." "Are we?" my mother added, trying for emotional manipulation. "After all we did for you?" I laughed, the sound echoing off their marble floors. "All you did for me? Let's review. You kicked me out over $800. You mocked my education. You called my dreams worthless." I stood up, enjoying the way they seemed to shrink in their expensive clothes. "Now let me tell you what I did for myself." I pulled up Sterling Property Solutions on my phone. Our website, our portfolio, our success stories. 10 years. Over $100 million in real estate assets. Properties across 3 states. And yes, one particularly satisfying acquisition. This house. My mother had sunk into a chair, her perfect posture crumbling. "Why? Why would you do this?" "Because you taught me an invaluable lesson that night you threw me out." I walked to the fireplace, running my finger along the dusty mantle. "You taught me that true worth isn't in appearances. It's not in fancy cars or marble floors or crystal vases." I turned back to them. It's in seeing value where others don't. In working harder than anyone expects you to. In believing in yourself when no one else will. What do you want? My father asked, his voice hoarse. Money? Revenge. I want you to understand something. I laid another document on the table. This is a fair market offer for the house. You can accept it, walk away with enough to start over somewhere modest. Or you can fight the foreclosure and lose everything. They stared at the offer, less than half what they'd paid for the house but more than they deserved. You're buying our house? My mother whispered. To punish us? No. I smiled. I'm buying it because it's a good investment. The neighborhood is gentrifying, property values are rising, and despite your neglect, the structure is sound. It's business, pure and simple. My father picked up the offer with trembling hands. We don't have a choice, do we? You always have a choice. Just like you had a choice 10 years ago. I stood up, gathering my papers. You have 48 hours to decide. Oh, and one more thing. I pulled something from my briefcase, $800 in crisp $100 bills. Here's the money you threw me out over. Consider it a down payment on your next life lesson. Karma is real and sometimes she has a really good business plan. I left them there, surrounded by their fading luxury, and walked out to my waiting car. Not a Mercedes but a sensible Tesla Model 3. Success doesn't need to shout. They signed the papers 2 days later. I had the house professionally cleaned, renovated, and restored to its former glory. But I didn't move in. Instead, I did something that would have baffled them 10 years ago. I turned it into a transitional housing program for students struggling to afford college. The marble floors now echo with the footsteps of young people carrying textbooks and dreams. The perfect rooms house students working multiple jobs to pay for their education. The massive garage where my father once parked his precious Mercedes has been converted into a study hall. Sophie's family came to the opening ceremony. Her mother cried when she saw what I'd done with the place. You took something cold and made it warm, she said, hugging me tight. My parents? They moved to a small condo in a less prestigious neighborhood. Sometimes they drive by their old house, now marked with a discreet sign, the Sterling Scholars House where dreams find a home. I keep their foreclosure notice framed in my office, next to my community college diploma and that first dollar bill. Not as a reminder of revenge, but as proof that success is the best response to doubt. The crystal vases are gone, replaced by sturdy coffee mugs that fuel late-night study sessions. The imported marble floors are now covered with practical, comfortable rugs. The perfect house has become a real home, not for me but for students who remind me of myself 10 years ago. Sometimes I visit, usually in the evening when the study hall is full. I sit quietly watching young people work toward their dreams, and I think about how $800 can change everything. Not because of the money itself but because sometimes being kicked out is the push you need to soar. Sometimes losing a house helps you build a home. And sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's creating something meaningful from the ashes of someone else's cruelty. The students don't know the house's history. They don't need to. They're too busy writing their own stories, proving their own worth, building their own futures. Just like I did, one difficult day at a time, starting with $783.42 and a dream no one believed in but me.